All right, we are back for another episode of Coffee and Conversation. I with me today. And so I am excited about this panel. I apologize for the delay, any feedback. Just as soon as I hit the go live button, of course, something happened, but do me a favor, share this stream with your audience. I did have a schedule started and ended after about this stream. We are going to be talking today about forgiveness, closing out the month with this topic. So I am asking you to share this stream. All right. We want to make sure that everyone is here. This is a needed conversation. I've got a lot of DMs and a lot of feedback from people just saying that how much the social media post, how much this conversation has been helping them this month. So share this with someone. All right. Share this with someone so that they can be here and be present and accounted for this conversation. So let me introduce myself. I am Kimberlee Deneice. I am an empowerment coach working with Christian professionals. I love the work that I get to do, helping people to be whole, mind, body, and soul. So it's important work. And I am blessed to have some amazing friends and some amazing connections. And I have a few of those people with me here today. If you were with us in the month of December via a recording, and so now we're just coming. We are coming out the gate. This is going to be a good conversation. We're not going to be distracted by anything that may arise as far as any technical things. We are going to press forward and we are going to rock out today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them on. We'll have some short introductions and we will get right into our conversation today. Because we have a panel, we will today run a little bit longer than normal, but about 9:49. Before we jump into all of that, I just feel led to pray because prayer is definitely always in order. So Father, thank you so much for an opportunity to come again to live stream. We just thank you for this panel. We just ask that you would guide our conversation. It's a very needed conversation about forgiveness. So we ask that you would be with us as we tackle this hard conversation as many people are hurting and they struggle with healing because they struggle with this area of forgiveness. So we just pray that this would be a conversation guided by you, but that we will be open to all of the insight that you are able to give us through the panelists. We just thank you for this time and we ask you to bless it in Jesus' name. Bring this panel on. Let me bring this panel on and bear with us, guys. All right. Because I am not able to mute you. So if you would mute yourself when you're not speaking so that we can be respectful and so that each individual panelist's thoughts can be heard and can be shared. I want to go ahead and jump right in with introductions. And while we're doing introductions, I'm going to be inviting. This is a different one. So no worries. Share this one with your audience. Make sure you hit that like button and make sure to share it with your audience. All right, first up for just a second. So for some reason, our stream stopped again. We're going to make it through this conversation and we are going to get started. We've got our panelists here. Thank you all so much for being here, for being present, and make sure that we handle all of that. So first up, I have Josh Harper.
Hello, everyone. Again, as you have heard, my name is Josh Harper. I met Kim, I guess it was about 3 years ago at this particular church in the South Memphis area. And just over years, we've been able to engage topics primarily on the intersections of religion, Christianity, and entrepreneurship and business. So I'm glad to be here. I appreciate y'all for having me.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Finest E. Parkinson the third.
Hey, good morning, everyone. As you said, I am Finance E. Parkinson III. I've been knowing Kim over, I guess it's been 3 years. Um, and we met because of our children going to the same school. Kim was my vice president of our partners in education at the school, and so that again tapping into the realm of ministry. I've been in ministry since '98, overseer of New Realm International online ministry. And so I'm just excited about this platform and the conversation we're going to have today. Our children going to the same school. Kim was my vice president.
Okay, somebody's not muted. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Finest. Next up, we have Dwayne.
Hello, morning. I am Dwayne Watkins. I'm very thankful to be on the panel this morning. I met Kimberlee. I still yet have to meet Kimberlee in person. I met her online in through my company, putting together a more of a personal development leadership class that I was a part of. We've been talking and putting together some other things after that, and it's been great. And once again I'm thankful to be on this panel this morning.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Dwayne. And last but not least, Nicole Gates.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Nicole Gates from the CEO Unlimited, and I'm super excited to be a part of this panel this morning. Amazing topic. Can't wait to dig into that. I met Kimberlee, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago it was, working through Shelby County government many moons ago, but I am excited that she invited me to this. Me and Kimberlee found out we have a lot of things in common. We became really good friends after meeting at work. And I'm honored to serve today on this panel. Thank you for
Awesome. So thank y'all so much. And everybody, again, share this stream, and feel free to comment if you have any thoughts, if you have any questions. You know how I do. I would love to be able to put those on the screen as you are watching. So we are going to jump right into this conversation, this topic about forgiveness. I know many of you have seen some of the posts and some of the lessons that I've been teaching this month via live stream, and even my blog posts about forgiveness. And so let's hop right in with the importance of forgiveness. We're gonna hop in with the importance of forgiveness. Why is forgiveness important? Why do you all think forgiveness is important? We'll start with you, Finest.
All right. Well, I believe forgiveness is important because it releases you from holding on to bitterness. When I examine my life and some of the things that I've gone through, I realized that the more that I do not forgive, the bitter I become, because it's sort of like encapsulating the pain or the offense that someone has done to you. So, really releasing forgiveness. It's not saying that you are in agreement with what was done to you, but releasing the forgiveness releases you from repeating the pain in your head. Um, I'm gonna stop right there for a second because I don't want to take too much time of the panel because there's so much more to that. And I just believe we're going to tap into that through the course of this conversation. But for me, it allows you to release yourself from the pain of repeating the cycle of repeating that pain again.
Okay, thank you. And we'll just kind of do a round robin. Josh, why do you think forgiveness is important?
Well, I think that it 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 ends up um, preventing you from being in community with people um, in ways that can be fruitful and healthy. I think that forgiveness is important because we cannot navigate this life by ourselves. One of the things that I actually despise is when people say, forgiveness ain't about the other person. Forgiveness is about me. Well, that sounds real good. And in this radical individualistic world, that gets a whole lot of amens and shouts. Unfortunately, uh, we have to be our better selves, not just for ourselves, but we have to be our better selves to be in community with people that preferably look like us. So I think that is why it's vitally important, because it stifles your inability to be vulnerable. It stifles your ability to be vulnerable and open with other people that you need to be in community with.
Okay, thank you. Dwayne, share your thoughts for our opening. Why is forgiveness important?
Well, forgiveness is important. I'm going to come from this perspective. I've been married 37 years and I am still married. And one of the values that I found in being married this length of time is one of them is the ability to forgive. Forgiveness is important, and so that in a relationship, and that could be. I live in the Jordan, right outside of Atlanta. One of the important aspects of being able to forgive in marriage or any relationship of significance in that matter is to be able to address whatever that issue is, let it go, bury it, and then be able to build and move forward. Uh, at any point in my marriage, forgiveness could have hindered any progress of our relationship and thus hindered the marriage. So, forgiveness is important to be able to build the relationship towards the future.
Thank you, Dwayne. And last but not least, Nicole, why do you think forgiveness is important?
Well, I think it's important. I'm going to tap right into what Dwayne said. He kind of took the words out of my mouth. I think it's important for relationships so you can move forward. He said, and move forward. I think if you don't forgive, when you don't forgive, you cut off blessings. It's real simple. You cut off your blessings when you don't forgive. I do believe it is for both people, and I think Josh talked about that. We often say, forgiveness is for us, but we also have to think about that other person, because 9 times out of 10, we both were involved in whatever happened, right? So we have to take accountability for our actions. And I think they have, even if they don't forgive you at the same time, it definitely is for both people. So.
Okay. One of the thoughts that we had on one of the broadcasts this month, we were talking about forgiveness is a gift that we give away. You kind of stand right there where Nicole was. We give away, but we reap the benefits. It's something we give away to others, but we reap the benefits. And so I just want you all to kind of share your thoughts on this, and I'll kind of go in a different order since we all kind of have different perspectives. I'll go in a different order. So this time I want to start with you, Josh.
Um, my thoughts about it. You give it, but it's beneficial for you. Like, frame that question again.
So one of the things that we talked about was the gift of forgiveness. It's something that we give away to others, but we reap the benefits.
Yeah, I think again, we just got to be very cautious about how we frame that. Like, that thought, I think it can be true, but I think that it is largely rooted in, uh, you know, a me, myself, I mentality. Like it's only beneficial for me, and I'm the one that reaps the benefits. I don't. I'm not sure if it's just me alone that reaps the benefits of being able to forgive. I think that there are elements to it that does warrant itself to, or lends itself to, me being more liberated, me being more free. I'm just not sure if I think that that's actually part of the problem is we only forgive with the intent to it being beneficial for me. Uh, so it's interesting that people are forgiving, but they're still selfish. And I'm just not sure how that works. So clearly there's a disconnect when I forgive people, but I'm still a selfish person. So I think that we just have to kind of open up our imaginations a little bit better in terms of what forgiveness looks like, what it is, and what it eventually should lead us to do.
Right. So let's so not from a selfish perspective. Because that was actually from a scripture, and I'll find it in a minute, but not from a selfish perspective, but forgiveness, it's something I give away, but I reap the benefits. And so I guess framing it in the way of the person that has a really hard time forgiving people all the time. The person that's, I forgive you, but I'm not gonna forget type of mentality. So not thinking from the selfish aspect, I guess thinking from the aspect of from a healing standpoint, right? And taking ownership, and not always playing a victim when it comes to things that get done to us, right? And so I think it's to open people's minds to help them to realize I think sometimes people will withhold forgiveness thinking that it's going to do something to the other person, but not looking at what it does to us when we don't forgive, right? So not necessarily I'm forgiving because I want this reward, I want this benefit, but me forgiving this person, and it not necessarily, it's a mindset, right? It's not always a conversation necessarily. So I want you guys to chime in on your thoughts with that as well, because Josh brought up a good point, right? About that selfish perspective that some people go to, right? Of, well, I'm gonna forgive you because I know I'm gonna get some, I'm gonna get some, I'm gonna forgive you, so there's that selfish side of that, but then there's also that side on the other side of the spectrum, the person who really struggles with forgiving and they don't realize what it can do for them to release, right? So I know that's a lot in there. And so Josh, if you got a follow up for that before we go to everyone else, because I know I brought something on the other side of the spectrum there.
Yeah, I think that I think, and I understand the topic and the title and what the conversation should be moving towards, but I actually think it can be dehumanizing, forcing people to forgive outside of a time in which they're ready to forgive. I actually think that is one of the most detrimental things in the Black community is we're always, especially when it comes to in racial areas, um, things that's done to us, we're supposed to forgive. Sure, that's the ultimate goal. But I do have a right to wrestle, to grapple, and to sit with what you did to me. Oftentimes, much of our struggling with forgiveness is due to the fact that society tells us you need to go ahead and forgive and not sit with it and not wrestle with it, and I think that's very dehumanizing. So I think that there's actually a space in which I'm not supposed to forgive right now. I should be holding on to it because I got the depth in which you hurt me. And so I think that to kind of accent what you're saying, I think that part of the struggle is the fact, man, we never give people the space to sit with their bitter, their anger, and sit with the tension and sit with the things that were done to me. I don't have to forgive you immediately after you done cut me. Like, that's crazy. So for me, I think that we just got to do a better job with being human and not spending so much time in trying to be superhuman. I think that reaps far better benefits, not in just individually, but collectively.
That's good. That's good. Who would like to hop in right there? I want to give you all an opportunity if you've got thoughts on that. That was good, Josh.
I'm
Kimberlee, I
gonna
want to
jump
say
in there,
that.
Kim, because
Okay, hang on. Okay, everybody's hopped in at the same time. We'll go to Nicole, and then I think Dwayne. I think Dwayne was talking.
No, that was finance.
Okay,
Oh,
so I want to.
Nicole then finance. Okay.
Oh, finance. Okay. So I want to say that, first of all, I believe that forgiveness is a process. So I think Josh kind of hit that on the latter part of what he said. Forgiveness is a process. You know, there's a time that we are angry about whatever was done to us. We need to process that. But I think forgiveness comes, you know, when we mature enough to say, okay, you know, it's time to let this go. I do believe that forgiveness, whatever was done to you, in order for you to get over that and truly move on so you can build and get beyond it, it takes a lot. It's a process. It takes a lot. And I think when we understand that our forgiveness is a form of love, and you won't forget. You don't necessarily forget. It's not like it just goes away. It is something that happened to you. So there's a process to it. You have to go through the process and trust that.
greatly there are that it is a process, but forgiveness is also a heart condition. Because again, if we look at it from a spiritual paradigm, we understand that first of all, it is incumbent for us to forgive because God forgives us. None of us are in a state of mind. We've done something knowingly or unknowing to someone that we've also become the offender. Jesus even did a parable about woe unto them who even causes their brothers or sisters to stumble and fall. He said it's greater that a millstone be hung around their neck and tossed into the sea. But here's the thing about forgiveness. It is a heart condition based on our true love and understanding of who God is. For me, let me just talk about me. I've gone through some things lately. Is that one? Josh said something that's key. We've got to process what has happened to us. Okay, and I think sometimes we do, Josh. You're absolutely right. People make us want to instantly forgive, and it's more so of a selfish state so that they can go on being the type of person they are. But we who have been offended, hurt, cut, we got to process it. But we don't want to waddle in that long, because the longer I stay in that state, the greater the bitterness, the greater the anger, and the danger it is for me not to be able to come out of that to forgive. Now, forgiveness is never the state of mind that I'm releasing the person, um, or forgetting what they've done to me, but it is I'm releasing myself and disconnecting from what happened so that I'm not continually walking in bitterness. I'm not continually walking in anger, so that I can live a productive life aside from what's because I teach spiritual deliverance. A lot of times we talk about the whole issue of when I'm walking in through it, that I release the punishment that I desire. Why? Because I got to do it out of the pretense. If I don't do that, then how much more am I putting myself in judgment of God? So that's another whole paradigm within itself. But you know, the rewards of it, the rewards for me personally is that where now if I ever see that individual again, there's no bitterness, there's no anger, and I can live my life pain.
Thank you for sharing. I think Dwayne, we didn't get your thoughts on that just yet. You want to chime in?
Yes, I just want to go rather quickly. I want to stick with the concept of when I give, I also receive. And I'm going right now, I'll keep it in the confines of marriage or building any relationship. Let's take an issue like infidelity. Quite naturally, in scripture, it was people will, especially church folks will say, well, that's a reason for divorce. But The couple that can get past and forgive for infidelity, even such in my case, early on in marriage, now at this point, my wife certainly is my best friend throughout this whole journey, this walk. One of the greatest things I've seen about forgiveness is taking the paralyzing sting of emotion and feelings out of it. You talk about not forgetting, but it's not about the issue of forgetting or not. It's about, does that my unforgiveness have a paralyzing hold through emotion, my feelings, that keep my conscious thought paralyzed from moving on. So therefore, the forgive the even in such an, especially for a Black man, even for something so devastating as, like, I bring a big one, with my ability, or with one's ability to forgive, release it, oversee my thoughts as a spiritual being. One of the wonderful things that God gives us, opposed to any other creature, is I can oversee my thoughts and tell my feelings and emotions that they're not going to drive me. I'm going to contain and put them in respect. So when I give the gift of forgiveness, I can back control of my feelings and my emotions.
I think that's good. That's good. And we'll just kind of stay right there and just kind of go around, because I know you all probably have more thoughts to share based on everyone sharing their thoughts. So we'll go back to Josh.
Yeah, I'm currently I'm in this conference. It's the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, which is ultimately it's a Afro year. And there was a thought that was shared the other day, and I think it's pertinent. They said it is an oppressive request to ask the oppressed to teach the oppressor how to not continue to oppress them. Um, Saying that to say, it's interesting to me that finds of a vacuum. So we usually think about it in terms of infidelity, as Brother Dwayne mentioned. However, I think as Black people on in this space right now, of forgiveness that has both historically and current debilitating us. What has been debilitating for Black folks is this forced need to forgive people that oppress us. And then it ends up impacting the way they look like us. And so I just think that, again, I stand with that. At the end of the day, I believe that it's their emotions. We're the only race of people that's told basically, well, you need to be afraid of your emotions. Your emotions and your feelings don't have a place. Well, I mean, that's how this whole party got started in 1619. As if we don't have any rights, and as if we don't have any feelings. In fact, they called us three-fifths human. And it's just interesting to me that the ways in which we describe it, the ways in which we describe Black forgiveness, sounds eerily familiar to the same way our oppressors told us we need to forgive. So while I'm whipping you, lashing you, raping your women, while I am literally dehumanizing you, I need you to just be forgiving in the meantime, because in the end, you get the great reward. It just sounds ludicrous to me.
Thoughts? I can't tell if you're trying to unmute yourself to speak.
Okay. I, um, Um, no, I was in thought. In the context of us talking about forgiveness as a whole, again, there's so levels to which we go through. The brother Dwayne talked about forgiving through infidelity. Understand Josh talking about forgiveness through ancestral hurt, historical hurt to a culture. Again, however we look at it, uh, unforgiveness. Let me say it from this way: uh, if we harbor our hurts and pains to a degree that we can't forgive, then we perpetuate a cycle of hurt and pain. Um, and I know Josh is more eccentric and historically wanting us as a culture to get to a place where, first of all, we are free to show our hurt and pain. But I think also in that spectrum, uh, we've got to get to a place of where we start teaching, because you start off the platform, Kim, from a spiritual context. We got to start teaching forgiveness is of the heart. Forgiveness is what is going to help us go from one level to the next in God. And Nicole talked about that growing in maturity is forgiveness. And whether it's through adultery, whether it's through historical hurt, cultural hurt, it is a form of maturity that we get through. And so, with the conversation of forgiveness, it's needed in our communities, it's needed in our homes, it's needed in our marriage. And it's the thing that we've got to do better at, even to deal with the hurt so that they can get to the place of forgiveness, so they can get to the place of living a whole life. And I think that's what we really, how we really have to start looking at forgiveness. Forgiveness helps us to get to the place of living a whole healed life.
Thank you for sharing. All right, so we've talked about forgiveness. Is it something that's necessary? We've talked about some reasons why to forgive and not to harbor unforgiveness. We've even talked about being able to deal with things, not being rushed through the process of forgiveness, right? Being allowed. I think it's important, right? Just like, and I will use myself as an example with grief. Grief is a very strong emotion that, people go through, when they've experienced some type of loss. The loss I most identify with is the loss of a loved one, particularly a spouse, right? And when people are grieving, we are supposed to be cautious. Some people are not. Some people are very inconsiderate and rude when it comes to grieving people, right? But hopefully we allow people the time to get through. And I noticed, just as I said that, a couple of people hopped off this broadcast because they don't want healing, right? Allow people to deal with what they are feeling. And so just like, for example, that family member that may struggles with a cycle of substance abuse, they have to want to get help. You can't force them when they aren't ready. And from the outside looking in, we may want to put our own opinion, our own thoughts, our own what we've been through on people. But I think ultimately what we're getting to here is that we have to be careful not to try to tell people what they need to do, when they need to do it, right? How they need to do. We can share like what Josh shared with us, and like so many of the other panelists have shared. We can share, but I think there's an appropriate time for that share as well. So let's kind of jump into that, right? Because I I don't know. I don't know if it's an American thing. And so any of you all that are watching this broadcast from other countries, I don't know if it's American of us to try to insert ourselves into people's lives and have, or I don't know if it's Christian. Y'all tell me, to try to insert ourselves, tell them this and tell them that, and feel overly opinionated to speak on other people's situation when we haven't been released to do so. So let's go into that. Let's go into kind of stand right there where Josh and Finest took us, and then the thoughts that Dwayne and Nicole shared, right? How do we do that? How do we work on this forgiveness, right? How do we work on this forgiveness? But how do we also mind our own business? All right, let's kind of, and I know that's kind of, that's going to be interesting, but how do we work on this forgiveness, but also mind our own business? And when I say mind our own business, I'm going back to that, letting people sit with what they're feeling, letting people deal with it, letting people experience what they're experiencing, and not trying to rush them through a process, right? Just like we don't rush people, we shouldn't rush them through grief. Forgiveness is a process, and we should not rush people through that process. And that length of time for that process, there's no blueprint. It's different for everybody, right? So let's kind of go into that. How do we kind of work on this forgiveness as a process, but also mind our own business, so to speak, when it comes to that? Because I think often we insert ourselves and inject ourselves into other people's lives and situations and want to speak on things. So let's kind of go there. Josh, you want to start out? You're muted. Let me unmute you. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that it's vitally important that we teach people, and I know this is going to be jarring for some, but if you indulge me for a minute, I'll try to make it make sense. I think that we need to teach people how to be more human, and the most holiest you'll ever be is still human. Much you think you can fast, you can pray, you can know all 66 books of the Bible verse by verse, you can you can do all the stuff that Christianity tells you you are supposed to do, but when you lay your head down at night, guess what? You are still human. And I think that going back to the piece of we're afraid to really teach Black people how to be human. We give everybody else the license to it except our own. It's only us, which is rooted in a historical trauma, right? It's that feels like we've got to be superhuman in every facet of life. And so I think that on one end, you give people the space to feel when you give them the freedom to be human. But then number two, they'll stay out, folks. We will stay out of folks' business when we realize we're human too. One of the worst things in the world, and the numbers in church now indicates this, is Christians. As a pastor, the worst thing is when if you're doing panels and whatnot, and it's primarily laity, but there's one pastor on there, and he or she is going into all these deep, spooky, prescriptions. The idea is that they have the voice of God, not God, but God. But guess what? You still human, bro. You are still human. You don't have no monopoly on God. Nobody does. But when you have certain spiritual, pardon, that's my dog. When you have certain spiritual leaders, then the idea is they have the keys to God, and they got the key to unlock this box. No, understand that you're human, understand that I'm human, and I think once we understand that, we can respect people's feelings, and we can essentially respect people.
Thank you, Josh. Nicole, I want to get you to jump in here. We haven't heard from you in a minute. I want to get you to jump in.
I just want to say, and this is just my personal thing, I think that forgiveness is a personal journey. And I think the way that people can kind of stay in there jumping into other people's business per se, is just understanding that forgiveness truly is a personal. People process and deal with things in their own fashion. If they ask for help, that's totally different. That's absolutely different. But I think our understanding that this is a personal journey helps to eliminate people feeling like, you know, you're all in a business, you're trying to push them into forgiveness, because it does take time. It really does.
That's good. Um, let's jump in. Dwayne, I want to hear your thoughts.
Can you hear me,
I
Kimberly?
can. I can
Okay.
now.
Okay. Yeah, let me stay with that subject of grief, because I think that's a good one. I think it also oftentimes, especially dealing with church folks, and the church speaks directly to what Josh is alluding to, that we say that there's 7, or some believe 9 stages of grief, but some aspect you would want to get to acceptance. My wife and I had a child to die in 2000, and I was a leader in the church and so forth. And at the funeral, our daughter was just 9 years old, and she was one of a set of triplets. So it was pretty devastating to our family. And I heard some of just to put some realistic perspective on it. That day of the funeral, I heard some of the stupidest and idiotic things said in my ear that I promised I would never repeat. Like, it's going to be all right. Like, God did another flower in his garden. Like, um, you know, basically suck it up and take it. No, I realized, as Nicole was alluding to, I realized from that point, and in the 20 plus years since then, the Lord has shown me that we do all have to get at acceptance, or even forgiveness. As Josh alluded to, that we can't. I'm not talking about in the, like you said, anger is best served cold. Now, I'm not saying you still misusing me and beating me up. You want me to forgive in that process. That has to come to an end, and then the journey begins. But the whole concept of grief and getting to acceptance, and I think too often, as once again, Nicole alluded to, especially when it comes to grief and the loss of a loved one, people will say stupid things like, I know how you feel. My wife and I lost the same child, and I didn't know how she felt. So you couldn't know how I feel. You know what I'm saying? So to give me space, though, sometimes I've learned, even sometimes people have actually called me, and they didn't want to hear my lecture. They just wanted me to sit with them or listen to them. But I realized that we do have to go through our stages of grief, even as a Christian, even a man of faith. As Josh said, I realized that day that I was still human. Here I was, a dad that lost a child, and I could do nothing to stop it. And the second greatest hurt that at that time, I looked in my wife's face, my bride, and I seen the hurt in her face, and I realized it was nothing I could do to stop it. And to be a man, and to provide safety and provision for family. I need God, him to provide. I need him to protect. Yeah. So yeah, being able to go the stage of grief, allowing someone else to go to the stage of grief, and don't hit with scripture at a time, a human moment, and try to bring on guilt or some type of, you think, where they should be at. You don't know what they're going through until you go through it yourself.
I think that's good. Before we kind of go back around, because we need to start kind of wrapping this conversation up for now, right? We can continue the conversation. But Dwayne, I think it's good that you brought up grief, kind of, right there where I was. That's a strong emotion and process that I myself am familiar with. And I too have heard the insensitive things, all of what you said, but I even had someone to fix their mouth to say to me, and I'll be honest, I haven't forgiven this person. This isn't somebody I see every day, but this person said to me, I don't know how you doing this, and it couldn't be me who lost her husband. I couldn't do it. Said that to me. Do you hear me? It's still a process. But when I tell you some of the most, I don't care how many degrees, I don't care how many positions, this is someone that was so-called respected in the community. I don't care how many degrees on the wall. I don't care how many titles and positions. I don't care how many service hours. Like, none of that matters if you don't know how to have a heart. And like Josh said, going back to letting people be human. Dwayne even went to that too. Letting people be human, right? So as we kind of transition, and I know my strong voice came out because I feel real strong about that. Sometimes we can be real insensitive. And even when it comes to this process of forgiveness, like Josh said, letting people be, you might say, I get tired of people saying to me, oh, get over that. Oh, that's petty. Oh, that's whatever. But you don't know my makeup and what things that I've been through that makes me feel the way I feel about a particular hurt, right? There's so much involved in that. Just like Dwayne said, he and his wife both shared the loss of a child, but the feelings of that loss are not absolutely the same, right? So dealing with those feelings. So we have a question that came in, and I want to read it because we're all on the screen. So I want to read it to you all, and we want to kind of address this. So the question that came in: does forgiveness have to be vocalized? Not sure if I missed this point. Is that forgiveness just letting it go, or is that being passive? All right. So that's the question. Does forgiveness have to be vocalized? And is that forgiveness to just let it go, or is it being passive? And go ahead.
Let me chime in real quick. Let me just say quickly that for me, it was more about my emotions, my feelings that was going on with me. But certainly, it can never be just passive. It can never just, that's not true forgiveness. It can never just be forgotten about, because if I just let it go, if I would have just let it go at any point that I need forgiveness, I'm going to need to forgive somebody today. Now, I may not be able to vocalize it, but I gotta resolve it within myself. But if I just let it go, what's going to happen is that darkness in me is going to be brought up in another situation at another time if I've never dealt with it and got healed from it.
Thank you for sharing. So this question, and we'll kind of go around if all of you want to address it. Does forgiveness have to be vocalized? And is that forgiveness just letting it go, or is that being passive?
Kim, if I can
I'll
jump in.
chime in here, Kimberlee.
No, it doesn't have
Okay.
to be that.
We'll let's let Finest since he unmuted first, and then Nicole, you can follow up.
That's good.
Okay, so all right, cool. So no, it doesn't have to be. There are cases where it can't be vocalized. And I think what I'm hearing is the person that asked that question, and do I have to go and let that person know that I'm forgiving them? And the answer would be no, because in some of the situations I've been in and helped people through this process, they were raped and molested. Those individuals are gone. And as I stated earlier, forgiveness is a heart condition. And there are times when people want to heal, and the forgiveness, the blocking that healing. This is why I love what Josh said earlier. There's a humanistic part of us that has to deal with every bit of hurt and pain. When it's all said and done, there's that alone person in the mirror we've got to deal with, that human side of us, that is where our emotions are, all of that is incumbent, that we got to deal with before we can even move to the mindset of forgiving anybody. But with that being said, no, it lies. It doesn't, because again, this is the state of the heart, and your heart releasing the pain. See, when you, I said earlier, when you can see someone who you know hurt you, and you seeing them don't bother you anymore, you know you've gotten to a place of maturity. You know you've gotten to a place of healing, that you've released that, and in essence, you forgive them. Because see, when you don't forgive somebody and you see somebody, you have all kind of emotions. We was gonna be truthful. I know, I right now, I know a couple of people. If I see them, sometimes I want to put my hands on them, but I realized I hadn't forgiven them. I hadn't let that pain go. Okay, so don't judge me. But that's what you're dealing with in your humanity until you place, because it's always healing from the depth of the hurt, and that's what you have to deal with. So no, it don't have to be vocalized. It's just a maturity of the heart getting to that place.
Thank you for
I'll
sharing.
give it back to you.
Let's go to Nicole.
Well, first of all, I wanted to chime in. Finest, you like hit that right on the head. So forgiveness, no, it doesn't have to be vocalized, in my opinion. I don't believe it does. I think it'll show if you've truly forgiven a person, or if you have not. It's going to show in your behavior. Like Finest said, there's some people that he can see, and he might want to put his hands on them. Then he knew that he hasn't totally forgiven that person, right? I think it only becomes passive when we truly haven't let it go. The behavior, it feels passive because we truly haven't let it go. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Closing thoughts. While we sum this up, because we've been going for about 51 minutes. So I want to give everyone about 60 seconds for their final thoughts. And we will start with, let's see, we'll start with Dwayne, then we'll go to Josh, Finest. We'll close out with you, Nicole. All right. So, Dwayne, you got 60 seconds for your final thoughts on forgiveness. Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Okay.
All right. Now, there you go. 60 seconds start now. Just my final thoughts. I realized that because I'm made up of three parts, namely my soul, I can't control my soul always, only by gaining more truth and building myself up. But I can't control my soul from getting offended. The scriptures say offenses must come. So as much as I can build myself up to address offenses, my other alternative is how I react to the offense. So I pray that we continue to learn. I pray that I continue to learn how to react more quickly to an offense, because it would only help me. As Finest said, I let somebody borrow $1,000. Have I forgiven them? But then when I see them, I want to lay hands on them. Well, that's an issue.
All right. Thank you. About 3 seconds over. I am timing y'all.
Okay.
All right. I think, who did I say I was going to next? I think Josh, then Finest, then Nicole. And you've got to unmute yourself, Josh. Okay. Josh, are you able to unmute? I'm not able to do it on my end at this moment. All right. There's a bit of a delay. So, Dwayne, if you don't mind muting, we're getting a little feedback. Finest, we'll go to you. We'll come back to you, Josh.
Okay. So you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So 60 seconds. Examine the hurt. Give your self time to examine the hurt. Then examine your heart. And what Dwayne said is going to come because it's the world we live in. But the end of that says, but woe unto you who offense comes through. So that's where the healing part is of, and where forgiveness matures. Examine your hurt, examine your heart, and then move towards forgiveness and releasing the unforgiveness, so that your whole being can be healed and whole.
Okay. That was good. That was 36 seconds. All right, Nicole.
All right. So I think, first of all, forgiveness is a personal journey. I just want to remind everybody of that. It is a process, and we got to learn to trust that process. Let the process happen. And then lastly, forgiveness is the ultimate display of love. I think that is essential. We need to understand that forgiveness is the ultimate display of love. It's a heart condition, as Finest said.
Okay. 28 seconds. So I think, I don't know if there was a connectivity issue, but what we want to do in the future, we'll have our panel back. Our panel is with us the last Monday of the month, in every even month. So our panel will be back with us in April. So, and you'll see from social media posts and all of that what we'll be talking about in April. I don't want to skip over March. Just a few quick things before we go. You know, guys, make sure you're following me. Make sure you are liking, subscribing to these videos. We've had a little bit of technical glitches while we were here today, but no worries. Have no fear. I've already come up with a solution for that. But here is what I want from you. Pay attention to my post, because I am going to make sure that you are abreast of what the topic will be for the panel. And then I want to give you an opportunity to send in your questions before we do this, so that way we can address your questions during the conversation. So in order to ask a question, you'll need to make sure that you're paying attention to social media posts and the live streams in the month leading up to before the live stream of the panel. That's how you'll be able to have your questions that you want to submit to ask. So I'll let you know how you'll be able to do that. I may create a Google form or something like that, and we'll just go from there. All right. For those of you that do not know, Faith Like a Boss is 4 years old. Isn't that awesome? So this past weekend was 4 years since the very first Faith Like a Boss conference. We have a challenge coming up. We've got some printed resources coming for you all. We also have a virtual summit that will be coming to you all in April. My sister Nicole has been holding me accountable and getting on to me, so I will be releasing dates and all of that soon. And then once I have confirmed everyone, I will be releasing guest speakers. But just so that you know, if you don't, my birthday is this Saturday. I'm excited. I'll be 40. Wonderful. I'll be 41. As my son says, I look like I'm 21. So, thank God for a child that knows how to butter his mother up so he can get everything that he wants. But no, he's truly been a blessing to me as I go through the things that I go through that are not always easy. Children are indeed a blessing. So thank you all so much for your commitment, your time. Again, we will be streaming the last Monday in April with our panel. The panel comes to you every other month. So there will be an opportunity for you to submit your questions and get those addressed by the panel. So we're looking forward to that. So make sure, whether you're watching this on Periscope, Facebook, or YouTube, make sure to follow so that you can get the notifications so that you can be here whenever we are here and we're live. We are at 59 minutes and 30 seconds. So I just want to close by saying, hey, something that's important is that we rely on each other. So I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. You know what? It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. So that's why I bring these broadcasts to you, because I need you to survive. All right. Thank you all so much again for being here. And I want the guests to unmute themselves so that we can just all collectively part ways and say goodbye to each other. And hold tight for me out in the broadcast. You all will still be with me, so don't disconnect just yet. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Peace and blessings as you go on with your day.
Thank you for having us.